Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Sensei series. Today we're looking at 7 ways to increase your acoustic guitar prowess. The acoustic is in many ways its own unique beast, and as such there are things you can focus on to take your playing to the next level. But before we get into it, a quick word from today's sponsor, me. That's right, I am sponsoring my own video. I recently released a course that dives deep into the rudiments of music theory and how they apply to guitar. It's called Samurai Guitar Theory, The Rudiments, and it's available over at www.samuraiguitartheory.com. This is a course consisting of 10 videos aimed at the guitar player who would like to look under the hood of music and understand why certain things sound good together. It builds from the ground up. If you're a beginner, this will work for you, or if you've been playing guitar for a while and haven't looked at the theory side of things, this will work for you too. And for this month, June 2019, it's on sale for 20% off, making it more affordable than it normally is. Anyways, let's dive in. The first recommendation I have for playing acoustic is simple, it's easy, you can implement it immediately: play softer. You don't need to hit your acoustic guitar strings nearly as hard as you play your electric guitar. I don't know the exact physics behind this, but if I really smack my electric guitar, it usually sounds great. I'm guessing it has something to do with an electric guitar signal being compressed at multiple points along the way, whereas an acoustic guitar signal is not. So if I hit this thing with the same velocity that I play my electric, it's not going to sound great. Take a listen. When I play with way less velocity, the notes ring out clearer, it vibrates through the wood nicer, and overall just produces a more pleasurable tone. Dial it back and reap the rewards. Now keep in mind, playing quieter doesn't mean playing with less conviction or confidence. To figure out if you need to play quieter, record yourself at your normal volume and then record yourself again playing softer and see which one sounds better to you. I'll also mention one of the things I sometimes do, since I have a habit of playing on the heavier side, is just use a lighter pick when I'm strumming away. Next up is incorporate finger picking. Getting rid of the pick and using only your fingers can add a whole new dynamic to your acoustic guitaring. Let's take a simple progression. Here's a G going to a C add 9, and here's what a little bit of finger picking can do. This technique often scares people off because it sounds really complicated, but if you break it down into manageable chunks, you can get there. We'll break down one pattern today. Let's start with a G chord and make it really simple. First, you play the G root on the E string with your thumb, and then you take your thumb, your middle finger, and your ring finger and play the D strings, G strings, and B strings. Repeat that over and over again, and you get a nice simple pattern. And when the song goes to the C, same concept, but instead of playing the root on the E string, you're now playing it on the A string. And once you're feeling good with that, you can make it a little bit more complicated. The next pattern sounds like this. The first half of this pattern is exactly the same, so let's look at the second half. Again, we start out by hitting the G root on the E string with our thumb, but then on the offbeat, we pick the G string with our middle finger, and then we hit the D string again with our thumb. And when it goes to the C chord, same idea, you just have the root on the A string now. Let's make it one bit trickier here. Everything is exactly the same, except on the very last offbeat, I now pick my B string with my ring finger. I went through this fairly quickly. Make sure you spend some time really mastering each step one at a time. And once you're feeling good with this pattern, try experimenting and seeing what you can come up with. When I'm doing this, I'll usually add some strums in there and change up the patterns as I go. Okay, for my next point, we're picking up the pick again. Make sure your strumming arm maintains a steady pendulum. When you're strumming, your hand should be doing this motion the entire song, up and down to the beat. You want to get it to the point where you don't even need to think about this. All you need to think about is whether or not you're hitting the strings or not on your strums. We do this because it helps simplify the thought process, but also maintaining this pendulum helps keep a strong rhythm. Here's what it looks like when I'm doing it right. And here's what it looks like when I'm doing it wrong. If you aren't used to doing this, it can be a bit of a brain twister, but by working on it and making sure you're maintaining that steady pendulum will pay off, I promise you. Record a video of yourself strumming or use a mirror to make sure you're doing it right. It will be painfully obvious if you're not. Next is something I recommend no matter what you're doing in music, learn theory. But more specifically for acoustic guitar, learn how to transpose chords. Transposing something means playing the same chord pattern in a different key. Say I have the chords G, E minor, C, D. These chords are in the key of G. The G major chord is the 1 chord, the E minor is the 6, the C is the 4, and the D is the 5. If I transpose this to the key of D, I would play D major, B minor, G major, A major, because D is the 1 chord in the key of D, B minor is the 6 chord, G is the 4 chord in the key of D, and A is the 5 chord in the key of D. Both times I'm playing the 1, the 6 minor, the 4, and the 5. I just happen to be doing them in different keys. This is transposing. This is helpful on acoustic for a number of reasons. Very often, we're accompanying a singer, and if the singer wants to change keys of a song to better suit their voice, transposing allows us to do this without having to use a capo. And if we do have a capo, it allows us to stay in the same key while also using alternate chord formations. Let's take that same pattern from before. G, E minor, C, D. If I put a capo on my 5th fret, then I get a G chord by playing the D shape. I get an E minor by playing the B minor shape. I get my C by playing a G shape. I get my D playing an A shape. When my capo is on the 5th fret and I want to play in G, then I transpose everything to D shapes. This opens up a bunch of embellishments and sounds that I wouldn't have had available to me before. Take this, for example, on my G chord. And if I happen to be playing with another acoustic guitar player, they can be playing these chords without the capo, I play them with the capo, and now we aren't playing the exact same thing. Now, if all this sounds like complete gibberish, you need to go back to the basics of theory and build up your information from the ground up. How can you do this? www.samuraiguitartheory.com, my friend. Next up is learn the open chord embellishment spots. Most open chords have some nice notes you can play around with. For example, on an open G chord, you can alternate between the open A string and the 2nd fret. And with this chord, you can also use the 3rd fret on the A string too. You can find the same type of embellishment on the C chord. It's located on the D string. On the F, it's on the G string. On the D, you can do this up on the high E string. You can also find a nice spot alternating between the open string and the 2nd fret of the G string with the D chord. The embellishment spots on the E minor chord are quite easy. You have the open strings available to you and the 2nd frets of the D string and A string. With the A minor, similar deal, all the open strings can be in play. With the D minor, you have the open strings in play on the G and E strings, and the 1st fret available to you on the B string. Experiment with this stuff, and be aware there are occasional times where these embellishments will sound a little bit strange. Use your ear and trust your intuition. It can really add a lot of life to an otherwise fairly bland chord progression. Let's see what this can do for a G-D-C. Next up is see if you can create bass lines between the root notes of your chords. It'll add a whole new depth to your playing. Here's an example. What I'm doing is walking towards the root or the lowest note of each chord before I play them. This creates tension and motion. If my chord progression goes from, say, a G to C, then what I do is just walk up the notes on the scale until I hit the C. You can do this from any chord to any other chord in the scale. Here it is from a G to an E minor. The first thing I recommend is learn how to play the notes in whatever key you're in using the low 3 strings and this position on the guitar neck. Typically with acoustic guitar campfire songs, it's going to be one of C, G, or D. From there, experiment with ways you can move from root note to root note using single notes in the key. So if I'm in the key of C and I'm going from a C major chord to a G major, I can just walk down my scale from root to root. Once I can visualize that, I can now add the chord. If your roots don't have any notes between them to walk through, you can either approach from below or above. Again, say I'm in the key of C and I'm going from an F chord to a G chord, there's no scale note between F and G. So instead, I might approach the G from the A. Like I always say, experiment with this, see what you come up with. The one thing I would be aware of is that you want to make sure that you're hitting the root on the downbeat of the bar. And last for today, try moving around open chord shapes around your guitar neck to see what kind of wonderful sounds you can come across. Some of my favorite chords are when you take one of those open chord shapes, let's say C major, and then try moving it around. Here's what it sounds like 2 frets up. How nice is that? It also sounds quite good on the 10th fret. Besides that, an open E shape works really nice if you move it up 5 frets or 7 frets. Also, an A minor is pretty interesting 5 frets higher too. These are the ones I gravitate towards, but I'm sure you can find something you like too. Ladies and gentlemen, that's about it for today. I hope you can use these tips to take your acoustic guitar skills to the ethereal plane of greatness. And if not, I hope they at least helped a little. As you can probably tell by the way I explain things in my videos, my entire musical foundation is conceptualized through music theory. If you want to head down the path of hearing and understanding music on a deeper level, check out www.samuraiguitartheory.com. You won't be disappointed. I'll also link to it in the description. You can find my merch by hitting that link over there. If you're new here, hit that subscribe button. If you want to get caught up on the Sensei series, click that up there. Until next time, I'm Samurai Guitarist. Thank you all for watching, and I will see you again soon.